All right, it looks like we are live everywhere else. Hello, everybody. How are you all doing? I hope you're doing okay. And let me just do a little bit of adjustment and make sure that I can share my screen. Um, so today we have a really amazing topic to talk about. So today we're gonna talk about different skills that you need to have as an iOS developer, because here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. A lot of people ask me about how difficult it is like to be an iOS developer, how difficult it is to build a mobile app, how difficult it is, what do I need to know? Like if people are concerned about Swift as a programming language, people are concerned about building UI, people are concerned about many different things, but like apart from doing iOS development, a part of doing iOS development, you need more skills as an iOS developer. And here's the thing, here's where my QA engineers come in. As a QA engineer, you might have those skills already that iOS developer and really like any developer would need. So um, today I'm going to do like deep dive into like other skill set that iOS developers need, because when we think about iOS development, it is a complex process, right? So like the key skill is for iOS developer is to actually build code, right? Like write code, build mobile apps. This is the key skill. So like, but what after that? So like what happens to the code after that? So after that you would have to um I don't know, use some sort of Git system like GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket or whatever it is. So you need to know how to utilize Git. So this is the second skill that you need to know as an iOS developer. And then like you need to be familiar with testing. Then you need to be familiar with CICD. Then you need to work with the team and stuff like that. So today we're going to talk in details about what skills you need as an iOS developer. So let's get started. Let's get started. What skills you need as an iOS developer? So here's like quite a bit. And like I said, if you have exposure in tech, if you are like QA or have done any kind of work related to like tech, you might be familiar with this. So, like the first skill set that is really important for iOS developers to have is be familiar with API and JSON. So, and when I say API and JSON, you need to know how to read JSON, because this is something that you're gonna do very often. So, like your backend will give you some sort of network request or endpoint, and they will give you a JSON that looks just like this, and that JSON, right? If you look at my slide, that JSON is actually a very nested object. It's a nested JSON. So we have a like first object glossary, and then we have another object there like title, and like the title have gloss div, and then there's another object. There's object and an object and an object and an object and an object. So you have to be like you should be able to read the JSON and create your data models. So what data model is, it's representation in code, how your JSON actually looks like, and how do you decode JSON. So JSON, like reading JSON, understanding JSON is really important. And like all the skills that I'm talking about today is actually not hard to learn. You can learn it like pretty easily. You can spend some time, like as you're working as an iOS developer, you will develop those skills. So JSON, you need to be familiar with different HTTP request methods. So these are just general methods that we use. We use get, we use post, we use put, we use delete, we use connect, options, trace, and patch. So per my experience, two major HTTP methods that you're gonna use are get and post. Get and post. But you have to work with your you have to work with your team, you have to work with your backend developers to see what kind of methods they have to use or that they provide you. So sometimes normally it is get, normally it is post, and normally it is put and delete. So those are the three requests that I work majority of the time. Sometimes it is a little bit more than that. Sometimes it is a little bit more than that. Sometimes it is a patch. So like patch can also be there. But you you have to understand how internet works, because normally what happens, your mobile device, your mobile application will talk to the internet, will send like a HTTP request or URL request in order to get data. And when you set an API request, URL request, you will use certain HTTP methods to send that request. So those are like basic requests. So it's really good. It's really good practice to have familiarity with those methods and know like in general how internet works, in general how data flow works, like on the internet, because your device, your mobile app, majority of the time will talk to the internet. Another skill set that you have to know Git. And Git can come in many different shapes and forms. So you might have to work with GitHub, you might have to work with GitLab, you might have to work with Bitbucket, and there's so many other systems. I don't think I think there's a TFL, TSL, like there's a Microsoft like Git system as well. So, but like all of them, GitHub and GitLab and Bitbucket, it's all Git systems. It's all control uh, system and like the source control system where you store your code. So I have experience with GitHub and GitLab and a little bit with the Bitbucket. So like these are ones that I use. I personally absolutely love working with GitHub. GitLab is also cool, but like GitLab, like they're so similar though. Like they're different, but they're so similar. So like uh, once you know one, like you're gonna know the other like as well. And when it comes to work with with GitHub or GitLab, so there are two options how you can create your pull requests. You can check out your branch, you can check out your code, and you can submit pull requests. So there's a CLI command line, and a lot of developers like that. A lot of developers like that, and like you can choose like if you like user graphic user interface, you can use that. But majority of the time, I never work at the company when people would tell me like you can't use GUI. So it's up to my discretion. Like people would recommend me to use CLI sometimes at certain companies, but like it was never like either this way or like highway. So it was never like that. So you can choose what you want to do. So like you can use CLI, and a lot of people like that, like command line. So in other words, you open your terminal, and you create a command like for your pull request, and you can pull the code from the GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, whatever it is, and you can submit like your pull request and stuff like that, or merge request. So, but you can also use GUI, and there are many choices for GUI. You can use source tree, you can use GitHub Desktop, you can use Fork, and there's so many other options, paid and free. You literally name it. I like Fork I like fork and I like source tree. A GitHub desktop is okay, but it was like it's giving me a lot of problems sometimes, and sometimes it, like my PR or like certain things in my code looks a little funky. So I'm not like I use GitHub desktop one like time to time, but like I'm not a fan. I personally not a fan. So another skill set that you have to have is testing. At some point, if you work for a corporate job, even if you are not working at the corporate job, at some point you have to test your code. And when it comes to testing, and actually this is something that is going to be rather easy for my QA folks. There are unit tests, and unit tests, like again, like for my QA people who are transitioning to iOS development, like unit tests is something that you have to like get used to, because like as QA professionals, we used to like more like integration tests, more so like the whole scenario test. So we test scenarios if that particular scenario works or doesn't. For unit tests, though, it's a little different. It's a little different. How it is different? In unit tests, you test particular logic, one single piece of logic. So let me give you an example. Let's say you have like normally you test function by function. Normally, normally again, every like each situation is different. So normally you want to write testable code. Normally you want to have limited functionality per your function. Normally one function does one thing and one thing only. So there are exceptions, but like if you want to write more testable code, you have to uh, be mindful about how you write tests. So, but like what to do if your function, for example, does 10 different things, like, and it's really hard to separate them. So what you can do, you can write 10 different tests and you can assert 10 different things, what supposedly 10 different outcomes that one function can produce. So like there's another way, like a workaround, because I understand it's really easy to like just um, get into a philosophical discussion how our code should look like and how we write code to make it unit testable. But in reality, like we have to make architectural choices, and sometimes we just have to um, be somewhere in the middle. So like what is integration test? Integration test is more like UI test, right? Integration test, it tests scenarios rather than just like one piece of logic, one thing. It tests the whole scenario, like the whole scenario. So let's talk about UI tests and integration tests. So not a lot of people know in QA community that there's an XUI test and there's a KIF, keep it functional. So both frameworks are great. Um, Keep it functional. It is a third-party library that you can utilize. And why do I like it, or why I think that library has a lot of potential, is because that library allows you to operate with your UI on a code level, because XUI test doesn't allow you to look inside of your code and actually test your code and modify your code and make mocks. I mean, you can make mocks, but like with keep it functional, you can like it's like UI test but on unit test level. So you can create like your integration, but like on unit test level. So if you need to mock something, you absolutely can. Because with KIF, like it uses XCT framework. So like unit test framework versus XUI test, it's just like black box testing. So in other words, you are not able to see the inside of your code. So really cool stuff. CICD, continuous integration and continuous delivery. So if you never work in tech, or if you never deploy the app, whenever you deploy the app, it goes through like some sort of continuous integration and continuous delivery. So meaning on the remote machine, your app will be built and compiled and tested with your unit test and with your UI test. And there are two options that you can utilize. You can utilize Xcode Cloud, and Xcode Cloud is really good option. And I use Xcode Cloud at my work, and I enjoy it thoroughly. I enjoy it thoroughly. First of all, I understand it. Like I understand it. I understand exactly what it does. And like, yes, there's the integration and there's a little bit of a setup and there is a little bit of a headache, like with CICD, because again, I'm not a DevOps engineer. I'm the iOS developer. But like I really like Xcode Cloud because everything is native, everything is there, like boom, done for you. There's another tool, Fastlane, and Fastlane is a script. So you write a script and you write it in Ruby. So like this is another friction, right? Like many people ask me, how many programming languages do I have to know as an iOS developer? I normally say like, well, Swift, possibly Objective-C, but like there's a Fastlane and there's a Ruby as a programming language, and Ruby is a like fairly easy programming language to learn, and like you don't have to know Ruby the whole lot. You will understand the script just fine, and there are a lot of tutorials on that. So like you don't have to be a Ruby expert by any means, but like Fastlane, it's like I work with Fastlane and work when it works great, but it's a little bit it's a little bit of a pain because like I normally work with my Fastlane once and I forget about it, and then like I have to modify something on CICD and I still don't remember Fastlane, and I have to learn again and again and again. So I like Xcode better because with Xcode Cloud, you can do everything. You can do deployment. You can do so many things. So working together with a team. Now we kind of like close to soft skills. You skills as a team member. So as a team member, so working together with the team, like yes, you may know like CICD, you may know testing, you may know unit tests, you may know like how to use GitHub and how to use Json, but you work with people. You work with people. So and when you work with people, it's really important to work as a team. You have no idea how many developers that I don't want to say personally worked, but like I've seen through my career that just sometimes it is difficult work to work with, like because of their personality, because of their demeanor, and because how they treat people. So and this is another key to like to your career success. So like if you want to be successful at your job as a iOS developer or whatever, QA engineer, you have to be a good team member. You have to work together with the team. And what I've seen so far, like it just like it I think the key point is to treat each other with respect. Even if you disagree with somebody, like again, it just work. Like ain't nobody gonna die because of it. It just work. You can sit down and you can sacrifice um, certain principles. You can reach your agreement. You can meet people in the middle. You can meet people in the middle. So and working together with the team, like PR, for example, like you put together an ethical PR and you provide constructive feedback, constructive like respective feedback. So like that's another way you help your peers. So whenever people ask you for help, you help them or you direct them where they can get help. So like just treat other people how you want to be treated. Pair programming, I think it's an art. I think it's an art. So when you pair with other person, on the program. So like pair programming, it's like it it's great. So and with pair programming, one person can be leading, another person can be following, and it's really important to understand like what role you're more comfortable with. Are you comfortable with leading and telling the other person what to do, or you comfortable following? Sometimes it's the other way around, and you just do things for your colleagues. So like again, like mastery pair programming is it's really really important. Negotiation is another way, is another skill like that. It's really important to have, especially when it comes to like different features in design and in implementation. So you have to provide honest and realistic estimates what people can actually expect from your work. And my rule as an iOS developer: under promise but over deliver. Under promise but over deliver, because it's really important for me to keep myself honest and provide expectations for my team, that like provide honest expectations for my team where when I can possibly complete that feature. So and those are like the key skills for iOS developers to have. Like I think your personality, your person, like in your interpersonal skills are very important. Your skill set as like working with GitHub, working with yeah, working with GitHub, with GitLab are very important. Your understanding of testing and unit testing, UI testing is really important. Even if you are not a test automation engineer, at some point you might have to write UI tests. At some point you might have to write UI tests, and you have to be familiar with it. So, and if you are a QA engineer, I definitely recommend you to watch the replay uh, of this live stream, because like I'm talking about the like key skill set apart from iOS development. And the thing is, a lot of those skill set QA engineers already have. QA engineers are probably familiar with JSON, how to read JSON. QA engineers familiar with like testing aspect. A lot of QA engineers are familiar with CICD, how to configure GitHub and how to use GitHub, how to like push your code on the GitHub, stuff like that. So a lot of like core skill set, right, that you need as a developer, QA engineers already have. And if you are a QA engineer, or if you are a new iOS developer and you would like to get into iOS development quicker, and you would like to pivot to iOS development, I do have a program. So in the description for this video, there's a link. You can schedule an appointment with me. So like our first appointment, it's literally 15 minutes appointment where we just get to know each other and make sure that like it's a good fit for you, like I'm a good fit, I'm a good fit for you, like you good fit for the program. And then if everything is okay, we're going to schedule another call when we're going to do really deep dive into program. And in the meantime, like we can stay in communication on DMs, on LinkedIn, or whatever, Instagram, Facebook, whatever is more convenient for you. Yeah, like check it out. Like the links in the description, and the links is also in my bio. So I hope it was useful. I hope it was useful. And again, if you're thinking about what is next in your career, I definitely recommend iOS development. I'm biased because like as soon as I started working with iOS and mobile applications, like I really really loved it. And there's so many professional opportunities open up for me, like I had no idea. So many doors literally open up for me. So like I never regretted my choice. And yeah, like and I kind of want to help other people to get there as soon as possible. Well, let me know if you have any questions, like any questions about skill set for iOS developers, kind of what we talk about today. Any questions about like in general, like iOS development, or anything like that, like any thoughts, anything that is on your mind. So like now would be a good time to ask me anything that you like. And if you don't have questions right now and you're watching on replay, definitely feel free to comment, and I will get back to you. I normally get back to my comments as soon as I can. So do I have like do are there any questions in the chat? I don't see any questions in the chat, but feel free to reach out, feel free to like chat with me. So if you want to ask me a question in DM, so you can totally do that. That's totally cool. But other than that, like this is all what I have for today. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye y'all.